everyone. Welcome to
Hi,
Dice Jailers. I'm Jordan,
I'm Bjorn.
and this week we are going to talk about probably my favorite optional feature that exists in D&D 5th edition. We're going to
That's
talk
right.
about feats.
Yeah, not hands.
Nope, not hands. We might throw a few over some
Yeah.
arguments over feats, but we'll see. But before we get into that, announcements of things. Bjorn, do you have any?
Not a whole lot actually. It's been kind of a low key couple of weeks. Looking forward to the next one shot I will be running for us, which should
Mm-hmm.
happen in June.
Yep.
Working on a couple different ones that I'm looking at for that. Should be fun. Should be silly. Oh yes, actually a thing to mention, as this would be potentially coming in July or August, because I already ran
Mm-hmm.
it by
Mm-hmm.
you. You said you are down with it. We are going to partner with a Shakespeare company out of Skagit County to do a silly Shakespearean one shot. And what
Mm-hmm.
that means is your performers will be in character the entire time, both in game and as the players. So
Mm-hmm.
if for example, if Romeo is one of the characters, we don't know if that will or won't be yet. The player will be Romeo, and their character in game will be a D&D version of Romeo. And
Yep.
so we'll see what that gets up to. It should be fun. It should be silly, and we're hoping to get a little crossover audience, people who enjoy us and people who enjoy them, and maybe we can entertain y'all for a couple hours.
And for that game, no one is allowed over 10 wisdom.
I mean, it depends if you're from a comedy or a tragedy.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I mean,
Yeah,
Benedict has like a 12 wisdom, maybe.
I mean, at the very least,
Yeah.
it's a witty dude right there.
Romeo has like a 6.
I mean, I mean,
What is foresight?
yeah. Whereas Hamlet's wisdom went so far that it came back around.
Yep. Well, because once you're looking at the DM's notes,
Yes, yeah, yeah. Hamlet's overthinking, correcting the DM's notes for him.
yep, and still rolled a natural 20, stabbing through a curtain.
Exactly. But yeah, so those things
Yeah.
I'm currently working on right now. What about you?
Well, with last week, with the internet being out for that week, which was annoying as all get out. Just to let you know, audience, my internet at home that helps us run this show, it was down for almost exactly the time that we do this show. Like my connection came back fully and operational at about 6:45.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clearly, what this tells us is the internet also agrees about the importance of reliability, strength, fortitude, and constitution. Con is not a dump stat.
Okay, that has nothing to do with timing.
Everything to do with it.
That has
Everything.
nothing to that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with timing of maintenance.
Or does it?
No.
You have your version, and I have mine.
That has nothing to do with the timing of maintenance. No, but
Perfect
with
sense.
the extra time and really the extra brain power to not need to like get stuff ready for this episode and get my thoughts collected for the episode.
Yep.
I was able to get some planning done for the one shot that I'm going to run, which will be for this month.
Yes.
And because I've got like one puzzle left that I have to finish creating, because I am making this entire one shot myself off of a one shot that I only like a third remember that a friend of mine made up years ago. Because we played D and drinking for that
Nice.
one, where anytime a player rolls a natural one, that player takes a drink of whatever beverage they are drinking. And if any player rolls a natural 20, the DM takes a drink of whatever beverage they're drinking, and
Okay.
also vice versa.
I'm
It's,
for it.
which is why we all have notes of how that one shot ended, but
But
we
no
don't
mem-
actually remember how it ended,
Glorious.
because we were all of age and consuming alcohol. So, so putting pieces together for that, as well as working a little bit last weekend, and this week is just Robot Party Week. Because tomorrow I make another revolution around the sun.
There you go. There you go.
And I've specifically taken all of this week off. Like I'm straight up like this is the most effort I've put into a thing for this week besides just enjoying myself. Because I feel I deserve it.
And you're not wrong.
Yeah. But as far as announcements go, the one shot that I will be running, we haven't picked a firm date for that yet, but it will be a Sunday with the
Correct.
group that we have together. And also, if you remember the Christmas one shot that we did, that we aired Christmas and New Year's, Andrew Shanks, we talked about his podcast, The Ugly Radio. I will be in one of the stories in the next episode that comes out next Friday. So before Robot Party Week started, I recorded my part for that and sent it to him, and it's a really fun scene. It's great.
And all these things you're working on, getting it all taken care of, pulling all of that off is quite a feat.
It definitely is quite a feat. And so now
that's the segue.
We get to talk about everything that Quentin Tarantino loves, Feats.
Yes. Correct.
I will never not make that joke.
And feats they're an optional rule.
Yep.
One thing that a lot of people forget, these are optional. Your DM doesn't have to allow them. And if you are the DM, you don't have to allow them.
Mm-hmm.
I highly encourage all DMs to allow them because they're interesting.
Yeah.
I will say, if you take keen mind and you use it as an excuse to not take notes, you are an asshole, and your DM should kill your character for that.
Yep. You definitely got to take notes. Like, don't. But there's only one time I can think of that you maybe wouldn't want to allow feats as a DM, and that's if your entire party is brand new to the game.
Sure.
Maybe lay off the feats just to slightly uncomplicate things.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I honestly think if you have a very new group, I think using either the starter set or essentials kit and the pre-generated characters is a good way to go with brand new players.
Yeah.
And if they're one step above that, use the player's handbook and let them create their own characters. I think once you get into player's handbook +1 or more territory, you're okay to use feats.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So let's talk about some of our favorite, our not so favorite, our that's cool feats.
Yeah. So big thing to remember with feats is if you're a variant human, you get one at level 1, which is very cool and one of the greatest reasons to take variant human. Beyond that, you only have an opportunity to take one when you would have an ability score increase.
Yep. And so if you're a fighter, you get a bunch.
You do.
If you're not, probably every 4 levels.
Yeah. And this is why I consider them so balanced is you are foregoing an increase, especially at lower levels, to what would have been your primary stat. And the way that bounded accuracy works in 5th edition, you have to keep that primary stat moving if you're going to keep pace with monsters, particularly if you're using standard array or point buy for your stats. If you rolled and maybe you rolled a natural 18, and so
maybe
you put that with a +2 and you start with a 20, so your character's a friggin' munchkin, and
maybe you're me and just always roll well when you roll stats.
Which is why I don't believe in rolling stats, because I don't. I get single digits in 3 stats.
That's unfortunate for you. I don't know why, because my D6s, they don't usually roll that well on sneak attack or whatnot. But when I'm creating characters, fucking BAM!
But yeah, there are some great ones you can take. There are some not so great ones. One I really want to touch on, because multi-classing is, again, that's also an optional rule, but this one kind of gets into the should I or shouldn't I multi-class territory. It's a new one from Tasha's, and it's Fighting Initiate.
Yeah.
Only prerequisite is you have to have proficiency with a martial weapon. And if you
Mhm.
look at basically every martial class, they all have proficiency with at least one martial weapon. And
Mhm.
that's important with this. So, and the reason I say this is this versus multi-classing, a lot of people would say, okay, for Fighting Initiate, you're able to take a fighting style off of the fighter's list of fighting styles. And
Mhm.
some would ask, well, why don't I just multi-class a level in fighter? And then I would also get proficiency in all weapons and armor. And I would also get second wind, which
Which
second wind is a great
solid.
ability. And here's where I think Fighting Initiate really shines. If you know the campaign you're playing in is going to have a certain level cap, say you're playing Dragon of Icespire Peak, that caps at level 6, meaning when you
Yep.
fight the dragon Cryovane, you will be at level 5 or level 6 when you get there, depending if your DM is having you hit the cap level at the end or before. Let's say you're me and you're playing a barbarian. Here's where taking this feat at level 4 instead of multi-classing somewhere is huge. You're not delaying your level 5 ability of extra attack. You're
Yes.
staying on the path of your primary class. And there are certain classes that, like when we went through them, there were some I touched on that I said, if you're playing this, don't multi-class
Mhm.
ever. I feel that way about Barbarian. Yeah, they have that little plateau, but there's so much good stuff at the beginning. There's a lot of good stuff at the end. That's one of your classes that you just can't afford to give anything up. But as that barbarian, there are so many fighting styles that I would go, oh, this
Man, that'd
this
be
is great.
helpful.
You could give
Yeah.
yourself a maneuver off of the battle master list. You could give yourself the great weapon fighting style.
Yep.
If you are wielding two hand axes, because maybe you want to have your Viking realness, you could give yourself the two weapon fighting style.
Mhm. Or you can
Maybe
give
you'll,
yourself just the defense fighting style and just
yeah,
boost your AC a little bit. Like
yeah. And
it's
maybe you're a rogue. Now you could look at taking dueling. You could take the
mhm.
archery fighting style, which works for all ranged attacks,
Yep.
meaning you can throw daggers and now get that another +2 to hit. And
Mhm.
for a rogue, I think the to hit could be more valuable than almost anything else.
Absolutely, because as a rogue, all you have to do is hit, and as long as one of your allies is there, that's that sneak attack damage, and that's really where your damage is coming from as a rogue.
Exactly. And again, if we're talking in that lower level campaign where, okay, you could have taken an ASI boost to your dexterity, increasing it by 2, giving you a +1 to your to hit, to your damage, and to all your dex based skills, which is nothing to sneeze at. But I would argue that at low levels, like say you're playing Lost Mine of Fandelver,
Mhm.
you might be at level 4 when you hit the end of that. I personally, if I'm playing the party rogue, I would love to have an additional +2 to hit instead of the +1, just because you're at those low levels, and even one more on your
Mhm.
modifier can make a huge difference.
Well, and also getting that extra fighting style, besides just the statistical bonuses, it's a
Yeah.
really nice way, especially if you're playing a variant human and you take this as your first. It's a
Oh yeah.
nice way to get some perfect flavor in your character and give a little bit of that, like, yes, you're still at level 1, but you have been training a bit to do a
Right.
particular thing.
And frankly, if you're a fighter, if you play a champion fighter, you get the second fighting style, which don't get me wrong, that's very cool that champions can get a second fighting style. But the idea of playing a fighter and being like, you know what, I'm going to take another fighting style on top of what I already get.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I want to.
It's
This
because
is,
I want to. It's kind of a way to get the old gladiator class
yeah,
that could just use and got bonuses in every weapon, so you can be that fighter that's just like, well, this is done. I'll just grab this spear, I guess. Oh, that spear I just threw. Fine, I'll pick up this axe and I'm good with it too.
exactly. Maybe if you are playing that variant human, you take this feat at level 1, you take the unarmed fighting style so that you can be a brawler barbarian.
You
If you're
sure
like, I want
can.
to be like the Incredible Hulk and smash things with my fists, this opens up a lot of possibilities. And so I think for me, fighting initiate is the best
Mhm.
feat to come out of Tasha's because I see so much
Yep.
potential with it for how you can flavor a character that all they need to be is proficient with one martial weapon. Monks are proficient with short swords. A monk could take this,
Hmm.
and now you could give your monk blind fighting. You
Yep.
could give them protect. Well, you wouldn't give them protection because they wouldn't wear a shield.
Yeah.
You could give them the battle master maneuver, and there are a lot of battle master maneuvers that are just freaking
Oh, they're
amazing.
beautiful for monks.
Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
easily my favorite feat that isn't the obvious one like Lucky.
Oh gods, we should talk about Lucky. But I wanna jump off of what you said. You
Yes,
mentioned that fighting initiates your favorite feat out of Tasha's, and I want
yes,
to
I do.
mention my favorite feat out of the player's handbook.
Okay.
So this is there weren't a whole lot of feats that were in the player's handbook. There were a number of them that came in the Dungeon Master's Guide as well.
Yep.
Uh, but there's one that just I can't see a reason why a player that is able to that the DM is letting you have feats.
Yep.
I can't see a whole lot of reasons why a player wouldn't at least have a thought about taking this. And this is
Mounted
the
combatant.
ritual. This is the ritual caster feat. No, not mounted
Yes.
combatant, but ritual caster, because it does not matter what class that you are playing as. You can take ritual caster, and you get two ritual spells that you can do. And ritual spells are always those little convenient kind of downtime spells or prep spells. And specifically one of them can be Find Familiar if you
Yep.
take ritual casting off of the Wizard's book, which means any any player can have a familiar.
Which is cool.
Just that's it. Like that's really why. Also the utility of having alarm, and specifically like I don't see too many reasons why you'd take ritual caster out of any other list than the Wizard spellbook.
Sure. I mean, that's where the best ritual spells are.
Yeah.
And again, there's such great utility spells.
And you can also, if you find scrolls of other ritual spells, you can add them into your ritual book,
Yes.
which is huge. Because now like you can have your fighter that's not an Eldritch Knight still being able to sit down and take the 10 minutes to cast Detect Magic or something.
It's a beautiful feat. No, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of that one. And frankly, the prerequisite on it is very reasonable.
Oh yeah, it's just a 13 intelligence or wisdom. Like
Yep.
most characters are gonna have one or the other.
And especially like, we've already touched on, if you're taking this at level 1 with that variant human, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is where you see feats more often than anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
You you want to take this, you're going to make sure you have a 13 in one of those two stats.
Yeah. And again, it's not hard, you
No.
know?
It's,
Because
it's
like
one of the numbers you get handed in the standard array. Here's a
yeah,
13.
and like intelligence or wisdom, I mean, pretty much every character needs at least one,
Yeah,
At least a
you don't
little
want
bit in one.
you technically can dump both. I recommend against it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing to say that you can't, but
Yeah, it's
why?
like you're telling me your character hasn't studied anything, but also has no real life experience, and they're an adventurer.
Oh, okay.
It's a choice, and
Yeah,
I believe that a character like that can work, but
absolutely. But
it's an iffy choice.
why?
Agreed.
Yeah. And so that's the one that the ritual caster just really hits me as like if you're playing and feats are allowed and you don't take a look at ritual caster for your character, I don't think you're actually looking at feats.
Yeah, like it's one I would agree with you. Take a good long look at it, simply because of the level 1 wizard spells, like you said, find familiar,
Hmm.
alarm, identify, comprehend languages, detect magic. These are all ritual spells.
Hmm.
And I believe that every party should have find familiar. I think is the one you can get away with not having. That one's just awesome
I
and
disagree
fun.
because it's too fun.
Well, I love familiars, but from a sheer utility standpoint,
Oh,
a
word.
party without those spells, you could run into some real trouble.
Oh,
Uh,
most definitely.
Not being able to identify is a great way for your DM to throw cursed objects at you.
Absolutely.
And as a
Which
DM, if my players had no way to access identify, I would throw cursed objects at them.
absolutely. You know what I would throw at them?
A mimic.
It, also yes, but I would throw an enemy with class levels that
Yes.
has a particular feat that I think was made just because Wizards of the Coast saw that one of my characters could not get ported from 3.5 to 5th edition.
What feat would that be?
And it's out of Eberron, for one.
Yep.
It is called Revenant Blade. It is Revenant Blade. It is a very, very particular feat.
It is.
It's just near and dear to my heart because I had a character so what it does, it boosts your strength or your dex by 1, and you gain the finesse property with a double-bladed weapon,
Yeah.
which is exactly for my rogue elf that used the twin-bladed elven sword.
So you can be Darth Maul. That's
Yep,
why it exists.
you can be Darth Maul off of dex, and it
Yeah.
still does sneak attack damage if you're a rogue.
Which is beautiful. Yeah.
I just needed to mention it because it felt tailor made for one of my characters.
Um, Speaking of feats we need to mention, we brought it up briefly, and you said we should get back to it, and I
Yes,
agree. I do want to touch on Lucky for a minute. I know
absolutely.
we're kind of focusing on the ones that aren't so obviously good, and I would say Lucky is the most obviously good feat
Yeah.
in the game. It's
I
very
mean, it's
simple.
it's so obviously good that I know DMs that won't allow it. They'll
Yeah, well,
allow every other feat,
yeah.
but they will not allow Lucky.
Well, and even in my game that you're in, I allow one party
Hmm.
member to have it
Yeah.
simply because I think it can bog down the game too much if everybody has the ability for all these rerolls. One
Hmm.
party member, that's fine. More than that, I won't allow it. You might get a single luck point because I
Hmm.
figure you're going to be a little more conservative about when you're going to use that as opposed to three. But
Right.
my big feelings on Lucky are this. If you're going to take that feat, um, and see the sun is shining on my face right now because nature knows I'm about to make a point. Have a good reason why your character has this innate luck. Like, come
Hmm.
up with something for it. Because if you're just going, hey, you know what? I want to re-roll some dice. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be
Yeah.
that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy with Lucky. Of don't just be like, well, I'm taking Lucky because I'm playing a rogue and I want to be able to sneak attack more often. I get it. You want to hit. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But come up with a reason. And I
Like,
don't think having, luck is a strange thing to have a reason for.
yeah, like be blessed by a trickster god. Have
Yeah.
one of your parents be like an acclaimed gambler. Like, just have something that makes sense why you have this luck.
And if you're a DM, maybe tell your player that takes Lucky, okay, you can take that. But there's going to be something in your backstory where this did not go well for you sometime. You pissed somebody off. Because, work with it. But I just
Yeah.
wanted to touch on Lucky for half a second of make it fit into the story in some way.
Yep.
Because, yes, it's good. Do
Hmm.
I think the feat is overpowered? I do not. But I
No.
understand those who do.
Well, and for me, the reason why I'm shaky as a DM on letting it happen is less because it's less because I think it's overpowered, and more
Sure.
because, like you said, I don't want it to bog down a game. Because, like,
Yeah,
lucky gives you 3 luck points. Like, that means 3 rerolls on a thing. If everyone has it, like, that could be that could be 3 rerolls per person in one encounter.
yeah,
And fights already take too long.
that's a lot. So yeah, I'm with you. Avoiding that. Now, going away from ones that are obviously good, there's another one that I love that I think gets overlooked by many.
Okay.
This one comes out of Xanathar's, and this one, it is your prerequisite is you have to be a half elf, a half orc, or a human.
Yep.
And this is one that for my current wizard I'm playing, who is variant human, I took this feat for him, and that's prodigy. I like this one. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give you any boosts to any of your ability scores, none.
Yep.
However, you get 1 skill proficiency of your choice, so increasing the number of skills you're proficient in.
Mm-hmm.
You get a tool proficiency of your choice and fluency in an extra language.
Yes.
On top of that, 1 skill in which you have proficiency, you can gain expertise. And my idea for my wizard is it was twofold. One, I liked the idea that he was just very studious his whole life, always studying things, very intelligent, because you have to be intelligent to be a wizard. But
Yep.
also, I wanted to make damn sure that no one else in the party could roll higher than me on an Arcana check.
Fair. Just
I'm the
getting that
wizard.
expertise in Arcana.
Yeah, and that's
That
where
tracks.
I put it in Arcana. If I roll a 20 on Arcana and somebody else does, who also is proficient and has an equal intelligence, I'll still get a higher roll.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get a higher score than them, even with a lower roll. And I like characters to be specialized in one of their skills. I love
Absolutely.
it where it's like, this is the one thing I'm best at. And what I did for my wizard, I made sure every intelligence skill, he has proficiency in all of them. So if it's
Yeah.
something about being smart, he's got it covered. And it's one that I enjoy. Sure, you'll eventually get access to the spell tongues, and it doesn't matter that you know all these languages, but
But I
knowing
mean,
an
that
extra
can also
language,
save you a spell cast.
and it can also be fun depending on the setting you're going into. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you know you're going to be going somewhere that has a bunch of wood elves in the campaign. It's well established. Okay, so you decide your wizard knows Elvish, and
Mm-hmm.
now you can be a liaison with them. And as far as the tool, that can actually be interesting. I just used my calligrapher's kit, which I took as my tool proficiency
Mm-hmm.
because it sounded fun. I just used it to forge a letter.
Absolutely.
And forging that letter helped us root out a criminal because we were sure they were guilty of a crime. And we forged a letter to help tip their hand. And it worked and it was great. And so I love Prodigy. Most people,
Yeah.
again, will look at feats like Lucky or other ones that let you re-roll or ones that increase ability scores. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can just do something that helps enrich your character's backstory. And that's what
Absolutely.
Prodigy is to me. It's a great feat
Yeah.
to flesh out your character.
And I think it'd be good to mention while we're talking about a feat like Prodigy,
Yeah.
that we talk about all the different racial feats, because those are definitely going to fall in the more overlooked category, because maybe you're not playing a character of that race.
Right. And I will also say on that note, if you think there's a good reason that maybe your character should have access to a racial feat,
Mm-hmm.
talk to your DM because Jamie, who has been on here, has the Fey teleportation feat for her
Mm-hmm.
character, who is a half elf, because her character's husband is an archfey prince, and the backstory of this character was that he had spent so much time in the Feywild, and so she asked me,
Yeah.
would it be okay if I took this feat because I think it makes sense for my backstory? I went, that's interesting. I like it. Take it.
Yep. You know, and there's one feat in particular that's a racial feat that would be a hard sell for a thing like that.
Sure.
There are two of them. Actually, they're right back to back in Xanathar's, and it's the Dragon Fear and the Dragon Hide.
Yeah, if you're not a
If
Dragonborn,
you're not a
not
Dragonborn,
good
it's
stuff.
gonna be a hard fucking sell that you grew claws and scales
Yeah, yeah,
and grew a dragon breath.
exactly. You're like, why?
Like, how? Like, what? Huh? Did you
Although,
get anointed by Tiamat? Like,
yeah, maybe you did. Although I would say this, if someone was like, you know what, I've been playing a lot of Skyrim, and I just like,
you are
gotta get
not
my
gonna
stuff
try
on
and
here, you know.
you're not gonna try and use the Dragonborn.
You know, some people will. I won't allow it, but
Yeah,
I'll listen to the process.
it's it'd be certainly a hard sell.
Yeah, it's and again, and not all of them are going to be ones that just work. If you're like, oh, I may be a half orc, but I grew up with my halfling family, so I want to take the halfling luck. I'm going to go,
No,
nah, you're
no,
not. You're not.
no.
I'd be like, unless you want to lose that, you know, some of those other racial abilities, because we can change those now because of Tasha's, and let's take away your good half orc stuff, and you watch how quickly they
Let's
go. No, no, no. I'm
let's
keeping
take
those.
away that half orc resilience.
Can I just say for a moment how much I love half orcs?
Oh man, half orcs. As far as I know, we're not talking about character races and whatnot, but I think half orcs are in the like most interesting made character races.
I enjoy them all the more now that we have the ability to change ability scores from Tasha's.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, as I said, as I've often said, both on this stream and just in general for gaming, if you're going to change the ability scores for one of the races, I think you should have a good reason why you're doing it. Yes, there are a melange of peoples and abilities throughout these various fantasy races, but archetypes are archetypes for a reason. We have those touchstones. Dwarves are going to be hardy and have good constitution. Half orcs are going to be strong and have good constitution. But if you come up with a really dope reason why your half orc has bonuses to intelligence and wisdom, I'm going to want to hear it. And I'm going to be all about that character. And how cool will it be when somebody's half orc wizard that should have totally just gotten obliterated by this hit is like, nope, I'm at 1 hit point, baby. Let's do
Right.
this. Yeah. So,
Uh, so a thing that I was thinking of as I was scrolling through my notes,
yeah.
uh, a set of feats that I want to talk about. That they're new from Tasha's, and they really they tickle my heart from a 3-5 and Pathfinder, from 3-5 and Pathfinder love
I
place,
think I think I know where you're going. Please
and that is
continue.
the slasher, the crusher, the
Yeah, the
piercer,
piercer.
all of those three, because it's just so nice to get that little extra boost for your damage in a specific type of damage that you're good at.
And not just that, like how many of us when we're playing a martial class in particular really cling to that signature weapon that our
Mm-hmm.
character uses. Like my barbarian uses a great axe. There
Yeah.
was a time he had a really good battle axe, and while it was a great weapon, he didn't love it because it wasn't his great axe. And then I was
Mm-hmm.
using a maul for a while, and it was cool, and it had a better to hit bonus, but it wasn't
But it
my
wasn't
great
his
axe.
axe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I really missed wielding the great axe. Like I have a
Mhm.
mini of him. The mini has a fucking great axe.
Yeah. And I think the best thing about this set of feats that came out is they're all just different boosts to different types of damage, but it's
Yep.
really nice to see some love get given to the different types of mundane damage.
Yeah.
Because there's all different things. There have been all different things for like boosting, like okay, if it deals fire damage, you do better. If it deals
Sure.
lightning damage, it does better.
Sure.
This creature has resistance to this and this. But for bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, it's really just kind of like, well, it's a damage type that's there, and
Yeah.
either you're resistant to it or not if it's magical.
Well, and I don't know about you, but I feel like for the most part, those three damage types are often so interchangeable. You
Absolutely.
don't see a lot of creatures that have like vulnerability to one and resistance or immunity to
Hmm.
another. You'll see it from time to time,
Like, you'll see it
but
with skeletons.
yeah, and I like that in a monster
Hmm.
where okay, this skeleton is resistant to say piercing or slashing damage because they're all friggin' bones. But if you
But
hit it
if you
with
just try
bludgeoning
and
damage,
crush it into powder,
yeah, like
yeah, break them bones.
I love that. And so
Yeah.
the idea that not just that you're rewarding that damage type of go
Hmm.
like, oh, you could also do this cool thing because
Yeah,
here's what you do, and here's how we're differentiating, say, a great sword from a maul.
exactly.
Because
And
without
also,
this, it's just a 2d6 weapon.
yeah, and also you get the fun of like it because it gives an extra thing to your crit.
Yes.
And what's nice is that the extra thing to the crit is very specific to that damage type, rather than what
It
could have
is.
been a pretty easy cover all of just like, all right, when you crit with your favorite type of damage, it does a little more. Like, no, no. When you crit as a crusher with like a maul or a great club, that means that rolls against that creature are made at advantage till next turn because you knocked that motherfucker silly.
Yeah, and you can picture that moment in your head where you're like, oh yeah, there's this critical hit by this and either knocked the wind out of them or they're dazed.
Yeah, like if you were to combine Crusher with the bludgeoning of a monk's unarmed strike, that's very very simple. That's just pop pop elbows the crit, and you get
Exactly.
an elbow across the jaw. You are not seeing correctly for a few moments. I'll tell you that from experience.
The fact that the piercer gets to roll an additional damage die. I mean, that's pretty rad. Oh
Yeah,
look, crit. You think the piercer most common you're using a rapier. Okay, your 1d8 became 2d8. It's now 3d8. That's the
yeah,
equivalent of casting shatter.
right. And it's so fitting because for Piercer to have the extra damage,
Yeah,
because Piercer can also be with a bow.
exactly.
And so just that nice just it's you're using a piercing weapon. That is surgical precision. Just boop right into a vital organ.
Yeah, it is absolutely a beautiful just little uh flavor on there. And then of course the slasher.
Yeah. And then slasher, it's just yeah, I half cut off your arm so you can't hit as well anymore.
Yeah, they have disadvantage on all attack rolls. Like,
Mhm.
there is a, like you said, a beautiful difference between the three, but just enough that you really get to appreciate the specificity of it.
And
And
you get to appreciate these what otherwise would be mundane damage types,
yeah,
you know?
and are they the quote best feats out there?
No,
No, but do they add an incredibly fun amount of flavor? Yes.
absolutely.
And I think, as you've heard me say, I'm generally strongly opposed to rolling for stats. Um, though I will give a caveat to that. I think it depends on the kind of players you have. I
Mhm.
use you as an example of the kind of player that it's okay to have rolling for stats because, okay, you rolled out of your mind for stats. You're not the kind of player who's going to use every ability score increase to get as many 20s as you can because you're more about the role play aspect. So
Right.
you're going to go, okay, I'm playing a rogue. I started with an 18 in my dex. I hit level 4. Maybe I don't need to make it a 20. Maybe I'm going to take Piercer.
Oh, I would definitely take Piercer in that situation
Yeah, because
because that's just so much damage on a crit sneak attack.
I know. Because think about it, your daggers are piercing, your rapier is piercing, your bow or crossbow, everything you're doing is piercing damage.
Oh no.
It's yeah, it's a great feat for
Oh,
a rogue specifically, or a ranger, because
yeah,
rangers are often using ranged damage. I know you can technically do a melee ranger, but let's face it, you're using a friggin' bow. Because look at the
probably.
abilities. The abilities favor a bow. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Which also, I didn't mention it when we were talking about fighter initiate,
Yeah.
but that's a fighter initiate is a great feat for your ranger to be that jack of all trades,
Yes.
because you can have your archery fighting style to boost your bow. You can also have that the dual wielding fighting style. There's also
Yeah.
the dual wielding feat, which is nice, but really the dual wielding feat is just to dual wield long swords.
Yeah.
It really
Or
is.
or battle axes if you're me.
Yeah, like it's really, you don't need it if you're using finesse weapons. You really don't. But
Uh, there's there's a there's another one from Tasha's I want to talk about
okay.
that I absolutely love, and I think it's an easy one to overlook. But this is what I call the it's not quite a full party respec, but how many times have you either seen in a group you've been running a game for or in a
Mm-hmm.
group you're playing in, and you realize every time a certain check comes up, nobody has any friggin' idea how
Oh,
to
yep.
help.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize these are the characters we have. We're stuck like this.
The time that
Ev-
no one takes nature. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Or Arcana. Or
Yep.
Arcana. Somehow nobody knows a damn thing about
Or
Arcana.
religion.
Yeah. None of you know anything about it.
I've
Well,
played so many games where no one has any points in religion, and it's not good.
yeah. Let me introduce you to my friend, Skill Expert.
Mm-hmm.
Skill Expert. Now, I'm going to put skilled from the player's handbook as a honorable mention here.
Mm-hmm.
Skilled, you get proficiency in 3 skills or tools of your choice. That one's great if you quickly realize, oh man, we're missing a lot of stuff. Grab that one. But skill expert, you get to increase one ability score by 1. Your choice.
Mm-hmm.
Pick it. Boom. Wonderful. Then pick one skill and gain proficiency in that. So that one skill that has just been your complete bugaboo,
You can just like,
increase it.
all right, we got this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're
And
better off.
then,
And then to treat yourself, one of the ones you already had proficiency in, you now have expertise. And
yeah,
that can't be overlooked. Expertise can never be overlooked. So I think both skilled and skill expert are great feats to take a look at.
oh yeah,
Honestly, skilled, where you get the 3 proficiencies, to me, that's a little better if you have some good mental stats. And as you're looking over your party, like maybe you're playing a wizard and you've got great intelligence and you've got really good wisdom, and you're teamed up with a barbarian and a paladin and a melee fighter, and you look at a cleric who has great wisdom but not so much anything else,
mm-hmm.
and you quickly realize, man, none of us have the social skills really down, or
Yup,
maybe the paladin does, but they won't be deceptive if you need them to be, or
right.
they won't intimidate. No one really has the sleight of hand. You know, you're like,
It's
oh, I didn't take stealth.
yeah,
Great thing to have proficiency in.
it's a nice way to fill those missing holes in your lineup, if you will.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I mean, the NFL draft just happened, so
it
that
did.
my
And
brain is
this is
half there.
and honestly, it's a great allegory for why you'd be doing this. She's like, oh look,
Yep.
we need a guard to plug it on the offensive line. Here we
Mm-hmm.
go. Now we got a guard, help plug up the
We
middle.
need we need a guard, a defensive end, and a middle linebacker. All right, cool.
Exactly.
Take skilled.
Here we go.
You just need one good outside linebacker. Skill expert.
Yep. And I think these are both great ones to look at, especially if you are, say, the rogue or the bard who's already good at basically everything. Just take it to the
Mm-hmm.
next level. Make your character beyond ridiculously good. Make it where you either have,
Mm-hmm.
proficiency or expertise in basically everything,
Yep.
and you will know, okay, we're going to be
I can
fine on
do it.
whatever we do. And what's great is if you're playing that rogue, once you get reliable talent, that's a great time once you've gotten that to take skilled, pick up 3 more proficiencies and go, okay, the minimum I can roll is a 10.
Yep. And that minimum you can roll with that reliable talent is 10 plus your proficiency. So
Yeah. So even if you had a 0 in that stat, as your proficiency mod goes up, you're always going to have a decent roll in it, which can be incredibly valuable. One, in case you're in a group where people like to split the party. I'm currently in a group where one of our players likes to do it more than I would like him to.
Yep.
But
Yep, it happens.
but sometimes the party has to be split.
Yep.
And so now, if you have that skilled, and if you aren't the skill monkey of the group, you can actually help out a little more.
Yeah.
So those are ones I love from a utility standpoint. I could go into things like the sharpshooter and great weapon master. Obviously, those are always great.
Those are beautiful pure damage feats.
They are.
Yeah.
But the thing about those, as great as they are in combat, the other half of this game happens outside of combat.
They're completely useless out of combat.
Yeah. Skilled can help you both in puzzles or can help you in dungeon delving as well as social interactions. It can help you some in combat as well, depending on how creative you are and how interpretive your DM is with the rules in combat.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be adding to your damage rolls.
Absolutely.
It could, however, all of a sudden you have proficiency in acrobatics, and now you're an acrobatic wizard doing backflips when you throw firebolts.
I'm gonna just do a backflip here and then drop a fireball where I was.
And the thing is, I mentioned that specifically because I know if you're playing a spellcaster, you want to die, so you'll dump con, but you'll have an okay dex.
Rude. Also not what I'm doing, actually. You'll see.
I'm intrigued.
You'll see. You'll see what my stats end up being like. They're interesting.
Con is not a dump stat. I just need to remind
Con can be a dump stat, depends on your character. Con can be a dump stat, depends on your character. But speaking of a feat, a feat that is often overlooked for partly because shields are often overlooked.
They are.
Because a lot of times players go for that, like, well, I'm going to be a fighter, I might as well do a big two-hand. Or people just overlook the sword and board because it's the classic and they're trying to do something interesting, which I get and I love because I think that way.
They're just looking at the +2 to AC and they're like, oh, there it is. I increased my AC. I'm all done.
Yeah. But taking the Shield Master feat.
Yes.
Because it gives you something to... It gives you something to do with your bonus action.
Yes.
And it also gives you a lot of help against spells.
It does. It does. And this is a feat I would encourage every paladin to look at.
Oh, absolutely.
Because paladins have nothing to do with their bonus action.
No. And so instead, with Shieldmaster, you can use that bonus action to just get away from me.
Yeah.
Just boop. It also... It brings the option in for you to try to argue with your DM to let you be Arthur Two Shields Jackson. It will take a lot of arguing, but this shield means there's a chance.
Yes.
Where you can be Arthur Two Shields Jackson and you're just running around shield bashing everyone.
And you know what? Honestly, I think I would grab the complete compendium of monsters. I can't remember if it's in Volos or Mordenkainen's, probably Volos.
Probably
of
Volos.
The Fire Giant Dreadnought. A fire giant that fights with 2 shields.
Yep.
I mean...
It's Arthur Two Shields Jackson.
Yeah. Now, if you were the DM, would you allow your player to increase their AC by +2 for each shield?
I would.
As would
but
I.
Would. But the shield bash, I would let the attack action shield bash do damage, probably a d6.
Sure, that's fair.
and then the offhand bash would just be for movement with Shield Master. But
Yeah,
I would totally let both shields incorporate into the AC because that's hilarious to me, and also you have two shields.
and it's fun. It's
Yeah.
fun, and it's a little different. No, I love Shield Master. For the short time I got to play a paladin, I actually
Mm-hmm.
looked at it a lot for a feat, and
Well, because
it was
it's so nice to get that just a little bit of space, with the shield bash on your bonus action, because
yep.
paladins aren't doing much with a bonus action to begin with,
Nope.
uh, and then you get that bump for the 5 feet of movement. Then, like, if you do your attack and bonus action at the top of your round, then you can move without incurring an attack of opportunity.
And sometimes you need to get out of combat, but you don't want to take the disengage action.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great way. And again, I think this feat is just made for
Yeah.
paladins.
Because
You
it feeds into that great moment of the paladin going, run, everyone get to safety, and you're there just slash bump move slash
yeah.
bump move. You
You
know?
take a swing, you hit them with a divine smite, you pump some big damage into them, you shove them back so you can run, and then you run back so you're still interposed between them and your party.
Mm-hmm.
It's cinematic, it's wonderful, it works great. My paladin was a dragonborn, and honestly, if they had been variant human, I 100% would have taken this feat at level 1.
Oh yeah.
It is so much fun, and again, it gives you something to do with your bonus action. And the other thing you can do is if you're fighting near a precipice, you
Yep.
shove them back and you keep moving forward and you just keep shoving that MFer back and just be
Yep.
like, okay, you're going to tumble eventually, baby.
And as the chat has told us, we cannot overlook the fact that it basically gives you evasion.
It does.
It basically gives you the evasion ability, where, like, all right, you make a dex save and that's half damage. You know why? Because that dragon's fire breath you caught with your shield, because you are a shield master.
Which is wonderful.
It's, again, it plays into that cinematicness.
And here's the thing, because, you know, there are a lot of area of effect things. Again, I'm going back to paladins. So many area of effect abilities are dex saves.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you have that aura as a paladin, play
You're still
paladins
not good
like
at
I
dex
do.
saves.
No, you dumped dex. You have
Because
an
you're
8
wearing heavy armor. Why the
wearing
hell would you
plate
need dex?
armor. And again, I know there are people out there who go, oh, but I do a dexterity based paladin and all this. I'm like, cool, that's you. And I love that
fun.
we have different ways of playing the game, and I hope you have fun. But if I'm playing a paladin, it is that knight in shining armor. I want that plate armor. I have
Yup.
disadvantage on stealth checks, and I don't care that I do. My party
Because
is
I
like,
will
yeah, my
I will
party's like,
clank clank down this hall shouting about my deity.
yeah, clank, clank, I'm a tank. Let's go. And when they're going, you know, oh, like you're making so much noise. I wish my foes to hear me coming. This will be a fair fight. They will know as I approach before I smite them and send them back from whence they came. Like
God,
that.
if we had the money for merch, clank clank I'm a tank is a t-shirt.
Oh man, clank, clank, I'm a tank, baby. I love Paladin. I love him. I want to resurrect and play my Paladin again. He had such a great backstory too, but we don't have time for all that. That's the thing. If you run a campaign I get to play in, Jordan, you'll get introduced to my Paladin.
I can't wait.
Sicker Eltane in the 12th.
You know what we should? Good God, the 12th.
Yeah, I totally based him around the Seattle Seahawks. So Sikaret is the Norse word for safety. Now, it's like safety is in being like protected, not as in the position, but go with it. And Eltanen is the name of the star that's at the point of the constellation Dracos. So the dragon star,
right?
12 for us 12s. And and his position that he formerly had was a chancellor, because I love Cam Chancellor.
Cam Chancellor.
So I was a safety chancellor. 12, yeah.
I love it.
That's where Sicker Eltane in the 12th came from.
See, that's ridiculous. Now I want to start another campaign, even though I don't have time.
And his half brother a T3.
So that's all the time we have for Dungeon. But we are getting close to time.
We
We've got
are.
about 6 minutes left, and we talked about this beforehand, so we have to talk about my my favorite feat from Tasha's because it's so specific and weird. And shout out to my buddy Yosef. This is the chef feat.
Chef is such a good feat.
It's so specific, and in a lot of campaigns you might not have time to use it.
That's true.
But
That's true.
but when you can use it, good God, it is some great role playing moments of like, hey, let me cook everybody a meal. Oh, okay. Why? Just do it. I'll cook some good, healthy food for everyone.
Do you know one of my favorite parts of it is? The ability score increase, it's your constitution or your wisdom. This means you can have your barbarian who is as dumb as a bag of hammers increase their constitution, because if you're a barbarian, you're going to increase your constitution for various reasons.
Yeah,
Unarmored defense, needing hit points,
because it helps everything as a barbarian.
you help your entire party. But you could be just completely stupid, but hey, I'm a great cook. I just know how to.
Mm-hmm.
You're proficient in cook utensils, and whenever you take a short rest, you can make special food that allows you to regain more hit points.
Mm-hmm.
This is incredible. Oh,
Yep.
and with hour of work, or when you finish a long rest, which those will happen, you can make
Yep.
little treats.
Yep.
You can make treats.
And
Treats,
like,
temporary hit points.
it's just, I made cookies.
It is. I love this feat
It's-
so much.
It's just so satisfying. Just that little bit of like, you're out and adventuring forever, and everything sucks, and you're in this deep dark cave. But I made cookies, and things are fine.
Yeah.
It may be hands down the most wholesome feat in all of Dungeons and Dragons.
It is. And it's also one your allies will be so happy
Mm-hmm.
that you have.
Because
And
it's just a little bit of extra healing, but like those little bits of extra healing can be so useful.
they go a long way. Like in anytime you can get a little more healing, it goes a long way. And what I love about it too is, when you hear about the kind of, the party build, you'll often hear people say, well, you have to have a cleric, because they're always going like, oh, you have to have a healer. And I argue you don't have to have a healer.
It's funny you mentioned that, because in the chat right now, you add that onto a cleric, and I quote, and it's just hilarious gravy.
It is. It is. Well, I mean, if you take a healer and you give them that ability too, it's delightfully hilarious and incredible. I love the idea of a party of all barbarians, and let everyone take some sort of interesting feat. So you have a barbarian who's got like ritual caster. You've got a barbarian who's got chef, and you try and fill in all these utilities with a bunch of barbarians or a bunch of rogues. Like, take a purely martial class that has no way to do any healing and let them just figure it out.
Yep. My barbarian in that case would definitely have telepathic.
Sure. And my barbarian would have chef.
Absolutely.
My most beloved character, Takar, my half-orc barbarian.
He is a chef.
To become a chef.
Yeah.
A couple more levels, he would get his feat.
Now, I'll pose this to you, because it popped in my mind with the idea of that all barbarian party.
Yep.
If you had multiple players that had the chef feat, would you let that short rest healing stack?
I would.
That's what I'm thinking.
They both took the feat. They deserve to reap the benefits of that. I think if you don't allow it, you're actually doing a disservice to your players.
I agree with that. And just like the idea of these two chefs with different specialties.
I know,
and so
right?
you get two different cuisines in the night. of course you're in that like short hour. Of course you're going to feel better.
I've watched Iron Chef, man. One of them's Morimoto, one of them's Sakai. You've got Japanese,
Yo,
you've got French. Like, you think,
shout out to Iron Chef Morimoto.
shit, word, word. But yeah, no, I would definitely allow it. And frankly, to any DM who looks at any party composition is like, well, I don't know, my characters are, my players' characters are just too powerful. Man, try harder. You
Right.
you literally control what happens in the game.
Yeah.
Modify the monsters, give them more hit points, make them do more damage, make your players cry. It's not that hard.
Give your monsters an extra shield they shouldn't have.
Yeah. Or do what I did and give your powerful evil necromancer a magic item that lets him get 2 reactions per round.
Or give your powerful necromancer a moving sphere of invulnerability.
That was an accident. However, I feel so vindicated on that because on Critical Role,
Yep.
they have messed it up twice.
Yep.
And both times it happened, I went, okay, I feel better.
I feel like there should be like a lower level sphere of invulnerability now that moves, just because I don't think I've ever played a game that sphere of invulnerability has been used correctly.
I know and the worst part about it is the first sentence says an immobile. It's the second word.
Yep.
An immobile. Second
But
damn word.
Who reads?
I know. You just get excited that you have this sphere that negates things, but whatever. It was a 20th level epic necromancer that had a staff, gave him all these other abilities. It let the globe move. You guys won the fight eventually.
Maybe over time, one of the new feats that Wizards of the Coast will put out is a specific feat that lets you move spheres of invulnerability.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. Come on, Watsy. Make it happen. Make it happen.
All right. Thank you so much for being here with us and watching and cracking jokes with us and whatever all of this bullshit was. I hope that maybe you got some new feats in your head to use for new characters, or maybe at your next level up. I heavily hope that at least someone that watches this, because of this, takes the chef feat, because it's just so good. It's so weird.
And think of the things you can let your monk do. There's some great options for a monk.
Just
baffle your DM.
I hope that you get a lot of fun shenanigans out of our little bit of a dive into feats for 5th edition.
Yes, please. Do it.
As always, we will put this episode out on YouTube to watch further on the following Saturday at noon, and I will definitely remember to do it this time because I will be not a person tomorrow. I will be in celebration mode tomorrow.
As you should be.
But and also thank you, our good buddy Zen, in the chat, helping us get Twitch Daddy's money by talking to us. Please continue to talk in the chat and do all the things, like watching and subscribing and all of that. Just gonna put something in chat for the funsies. But yeah, because we want to get some of that Twitch money and YouTube money so that we can get better equipment so that I'm not fuzzy. And stuff like that. As well as it'll very much help us. It'll very much help us when we get to the future, when we want to put a full streamed campaign on, because we will need some more cameras for that.
That's the plan.
And a better internet connection at either my place or yours.
One or the other.
We'll
figure it out.
But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Join us again next week and watch our Facebook page for our announcement of when this month's one shot is going to happen. It will be a Sunday, just not sure exactly which Sunday yet.
Correct.
So
it might be Mother's Day even. So if it happens that way, make your mom watch it.
It's not going to be Mother's Day.
Because I'm kidding.
No,
it's not really.
Absolutely not.
No,
I can't. I also I have stuff to do on Mother's Day.
That's fair. That's also fair.
Yeah. So, but anyway, what do we always say, Bjorn?
Do something nice for yourself this weekend.